Hey, good morning. I hope the audio is coming through pretty well here. It's just about 7:40 on Saturday, June the 23rd. Coming here from Port Pierre Canto in Cannes, and just wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the things that I'm using while I'm traveling. Um, for cognitive performance, for waking up. Again, I've talked multiple times about this particular device. This is not an iPod per se, but it's a light pod. It's a human charger. And basically, if you see here, it's not sound coming out of these earbuds, but actual light. So the light shines into the capillaries of your ear, which then shine into your brain, which uses light therapy to actually help wake you up. And again, it's an alternative to taking coffee, especially when you're traveling. You might not have it, and then you're trying to shift time zone. It gives you the ability to get a little bit of the light therapy when you're not quite used to the time zone. I use this in conjunction with something called Somni Resonance, and it's a little box you put right here on your brachial plexus. This bundle of nerves that runs along here, and it sends a light electromagnetic pulse, a light electrical pulse rather, to help you go to sleep. And it works very well. It's hard for me to tell how quickly it works for me to go to sleep, but for Ethan, my 13-year-old son, it works on him in less than 10 minutes. And it's actually pretty useful. It's a non-drug, non-pharmaceutical way to help people go to sleep. And then this is also a non-drug, non-pharmaceutical method to help you wake up and become cognitively alert. So a couple things for recovery that I'm using all the way through, because the idea here is to, as we're traveling for this next month through Europe, try and focus on, working on the physical, the mental, the cognitive, the recovery aspects of what it's like to travel in a confined space with a limited amount of gear. So I brought quite a bit of gear, but one of the things that I use all the time for actual pain management, for healing, something called the Micropulse, the M1, and it's this little device right here, and it's actually a low energy pulsed electromagnetic frequency developed by Micropulse. This is the M1. It's a modified M1. This also has something along the lines for structuring water. This is a 2x2 device. So you basically just put this, say for example for shoulder injury, which I have, I'll sleep with this, and it just runs all night. You have a couple batteries, you swap them out. For Michelle's knee, she just had ACL surgery, so she'll wear this at night, she'll wear this during the day. It's non-intrusive, non-invasive. You don't really feel anything. It's a light electromagnetic pulse. There's no problem with the skin, having it on your skin. And when you turn it on, this one's on the A9, so they have a bunch of different devices, and they have a bunch of different protocols, from Schumann frequencies, different healing. They have frequencies that you can use for going into beta brainwaves, alpha, delta, gamma, theta. So I haven't really worked on those so much, because using something on the brain, I'm not exactly quite there yet on this particular device. There's something else that has a lot more specificity to it, so I'll show you that in a second. But this works really well, and you can hear it clicking a little bit, but I'll wear this on my knee, on my leg, whatever, driving, and it works really well. Whoops. I hit the auto trunk button. It's not going to show you somebody in the trunk, the gimp in the trunk. So one of the things that we've been using, so because we have a limited space within this car for the next month, we had to be very specific about what we're packing. So into this car, and actually into the 7 Series BMW that we sized this for, were 4 pieces of luggage, and all of them were made by Away. So this is the carry-on version of the Away, but we had a large version in this color and 2 mediums that would fit exactly into this space in the boot, and I'll show you that a little bit later when we're driving around with this gear. But this is the carry-on, and this is I guess new from Away. They have this particular carry-on, and it's got a great amount of space, and this is what I use to carry all the electronic gear that I'm carrying around. Opens up 2 separate compartments, one down here. It comes also with, the carry-on version comes with an international charging kit. So in here you have different chargers for different receptacles around. In addition to that, this also has in the handle here a battery that can pop out and you charge, and it's got something for mini USB and USB cables so that if you're carrying it on. Now you can't, and this has 10,000 amperes, you can't actually check this luggage with the battery, so you have to take this out if you happen to check this particular luggage. But if you're carrying it on, you can have that on there. It's really pretty handy. And it just snaps back in there. And again, like all the other away luggage, it rolls super well, 360. You can move it through the, my kids actually can move the large piece of luggage, which is your typical large sized valise suitcase, with one hand. Works perfectly. So I have in this, as I said, some electronics. I have some lavalier wireless mics and Zoom H6, which I'm using. I'm trying to record separate audio and video, which I'm not doing on this because the iPhone seems to be coming out okay, as is the Rilo audio. So I'm pretty happy with it so far, but what I'd like to be able to do is separately mic us up and see how that works and play around with the audio editing features. But one of the things that, again, the Halo Sport, which I've talked about before, is it's very well researched. It's used by a lot of teams in the United States, professional football teams, basketball teams, world champion Golden State Warriors. They use these as well. And so these, it's a neurostimulator using transcranial direct stimulation, and it sends a light current using these primers, which I keep wrapped up so that they don't dry out. But you attach them to here, you wear it over your motor cortex, you turn it on, and there's a 20-minute program that essentially primes your motor cortex to allow, depending on the program, better brain-body connection between your core, your legs. You can also use it for right and left hand, so a lot of musicians use it to help increase muscle memory and improve the time of deliberate practice and what they're getting out of the deliberate practice. So I've used this since it came out a couple Octobers ago, and I think it works really well. And it doesn't, it's not going to give you this life-altering difference. You know, I guess the less trained you are, you'll get a better effect. But if you're a professional athlete, you're really looking for that 1%, 2%, 4%. Some Olympic ski jumpers had gained something like 12% more force production when they were coming off the jump. Now that's pretty significant. But really, if you're getting a 1 or 2% improvement, say on a Tour de France, which you know, if that improves, that's a significant advantage over time. So again, it's something that I'm using. I use it for strength. I use it for running, especially now that I'm, you know, a couple things. I'm coming back from injury, which I'm going to show you something that I'm working at that works very well for me, and I'm trying to just ramp back up. My A races this year, the first one's not really a race, it's more of an event that I'm really trying to conquer, is Kokoro, which is by SealFit, and that's, if you look that up, it's SealFit Kokoro, Kokoro, and it's a 50+ hour crucible is what they call it. And it's really designed to help test you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, really try to help you push your limits. I guess operators use it as a training event for training up and preparing for buds, and they've been gracious enough to open it up to civilians. And you know, it's one of those things you have to prepare very hard for. There's minimum physical requirements. You have to be able to do Murph in tactical pants and tactical boots with a rucksack under a certain amount of time. I believe that the minimum or the maximum time that you can take is 70 minutes, which, you know, unburdened with, you know, tactical pants and boots and 20+ pound of ruck, you know, certainly doable in that time. However, you know, you're gonna have to have those things. So that's something I'm gonna be working at looking at hopefully May or October of next year, along with training back up for Ironman. So next year I'll also be looking to do 2 Ironmans, aiming for Lake Placid, and that's in July of next year, as well as Ironman Florida. And those are very difficult physical endeavors, but really the one that I'm really trying to shoot for and training for specifically, on all levels, the mental, cognitive, etc., is Kokoro. So everything for the next year is really going to be geared towards that. Certainly the physical, the minimum requirement, I think you have to run 10 miles in tactical pants and tactical boots in the sand, I think under 80 minutes, which, I can run 10 miles under 80 minutes with running shoes and in perfect nutrition, perfect water and things like that, but it'll be a challenge over the next 12 months to build up my grit and my resolve and my strength to be able to do those things. So Halo is one of those things that I'm using to help get me there as quickly and as safely as possible. So there's a lot of experimentation that's going on there, and this is one of the things that I'll be using as well. So this is actually a case for a DJI Mavic drone, which I also have, but the setup I have comes with a carrying case. But this I use for the Hypervolt Hyperice, and this has actually been the single best piece of recovery machinery so this is basically a massage gun. It vibrates very quickly, and it's essentially the kind that you can get at physical therapists, physical therapy places. And so this is the battery, comes into the handle part, slides in one way. As you can see, I've been using it for quite a bit, so a little bit of the laminate here, the plastic laminate, has been coming off. It comes with 4 attachments. So the 4th attachment is, where did I put it? Didn't fall out. Here it is. So I keep it in here just for storage, but it comes with 4 different attachments. This round ball, this double prong, this flat head, this pointed head. So they slide in and out, put it in here, turn it on the bottom, and powers up. This should be showing green, and turn it on, and it vibrates. So essentially, what I found is, no matter how much I try and warm up before a run, it usually takes a mile or 2 miles before my legs really feel good, especially at this age. I'm be turning 50 next year, so I'm really trying to get the most out of my training and do so in such a way that's most effective for me, where I don't really have to kill myself. It's really, these days, it's mostly about recovery. I'm not 20, 25 anymore, where I can just crush it every day and feel good after a night's sleep. Now I have to really be intentional about things. This is one of the things that I'll use. So I'll use this essentially all over, especially around the ankles, where I've been having some of that ligament problem. And also, I also have gout, and I've stopped taking medication, and I feel like while my uric acid levels are a little bit higher, which I've been mediating through fasting, intermittent fasting, and multi-day fasting, which I'll also go into. Those levels have actually come down, and I'm managing it without medication, which is awesome. But I'll use this Hypervolt, made by Hyperice, and use it on my legs, use it on my pretty much all over, and it just loosens things up, and it gives you better, your muscles and your sliding surfaces will slide better. You have better circulation, and it really feels like I've warmed up for 2 or 3 miles before you really start going without actually warming up. So this is one of those things that used on any of the IT bands, which are always tight, the glutes, which are always tight, and we don't usually wake them up before we go running or exercise. This is fantastic for that. And this is nice and pointed around the Achilles, around those areas that get really tight after runs or pre-runs, and the circulation is fantastic. So I highly recommend this. 10 minutes, pre-run, pre-workout. You get a lot more mobility, a lot more motion, decreases the incidence of injury, and again, I've started ramping up the miles. I ran the New York City half super slow, which was horrible, but I ran it after fasting for 3 days, and I ran it essentially untrained. So these were some of the things which is not a great idea. It was really mostly a factor of my calendar and the fact that I was a little bit, I guess, lazy of preparing for it. But that's not happening anymore this year, again, for the races I'm looking for. But these are some of the things that I'm using. And this is the unit I'm carrying around in. This is all carry-on, so all the electronics goes into this device. Super heavy, super sturdy. And that's that. So a couple of the other things also, this is the eye mask I use. Comes with earplugs here, and I bought this at REI. You can get them at I guess any REI, and I have probably half a dozen of these scattered around the house and in travel bags. But this is essential. Use this on the plane, when I'm sleeping, hotels, etc. Hotels are pretty good at blacking out, but if not, this is really good at that. And in pulling out of this awesome bag, this is a skincare system that I've been using, and I've tried to track some of the usage since the winter. I did a little piece on it from Vail, and then again a couple weeks later from Turks. But this is called Retrouvé, and it comes in a face cream, a serum, and an eye concentrate. And you use there's a night serum, obviously use at night, eye cream also at night, but this dynamic face cream I use right now and today, and it really, I've found it's actually one of the best systems for skin. And again, at this age, when you're actually out in the sun all the time, or skiing, it dries out, traveling a bit, this system is really good. It's a bit expensive, but go check it out. It's Retrouvé. And then, darn that key fob. There's a watermelon glow pink juice, which is actually also really good. I'll use this also as well. Also been using this since January. And again, a little piece done while I was skiing, a couple weeks later at the beach, and then again now. Then continue to use it over the course of the year, see how it goes. But these are the products that I'm traveling with, working with. Again, this collapses really nicely into this carrying case, and traveled well with it. And it is absolutely, for me, essential for pre-workout, for getting the muscles and the sliding surfaces working well as post-workout for recovery, which, on the road, and again, at this stage, really want to try and recover just as hard as you train for longevity. So that's about it. And I just wanted to say that, these are all things that I've spent my own money on. We have no financial relationship with any of these products. So these are things that I've looked through, researched, and I use daily, use for myself, for my wife, for my kids. And I recommend anybody that's looking for these things, and I'll continue to share these things as we go along. And this is a short process, but again, I'll like taking multiple cups of coffee, and I guess the research now says the ideal number of cups of coffee is 4. I'll just go ahead and run through a number of cycles of this human charger throughout the day, and again, you'll see, there we go, it's actually shining. And now that I'm looking at it, I have the right side in the left ear and the left side in the right ear, but it fits better for me that way. I don't know if it makes a difference. Oh, this fits pretty well too, but I don't know if it makes so much of a difference. I haven't found or noticed any decrement from using them on either side, but these are the things that I'm using. The Hyper Volt by Hyper Ice, Halo Neuroscience, the Halo Sport, which I can't say enough great things about, used by a lot of professional teams, NFLers, people in the NBA, baseball players, tennis players, musicians, triathletes. Timmy O'Donnell is actually, I believe, one of their athletes. Had an opportunity to meet Natasha Hastings, Olympic gold medalist, and so they use these, as well as normal age groupers and normal people like us. So those are the things that I'm using. Again, the Away case, Tory Burch bag, Micropulse, and I think that's about it for now. But thanks. Again, you can find this. This will be posting up on YouTube. Oh, and again, I guess the reason of really trying to do this is and explore and experiment in this is because we've been using social media is really just like everybody else, just posting pictures on Facebook and Instagram without a real purpose. Part of the impetus in really exploring a lot of these things has been around. There's a truck over there, so I don't know if the sound's coming out, but reading the books of Gary Vaynerchuk and looking at the things he's been posting online and the ideas he's been putting out there for the last 10 years around using social media for creating a personal brand, which we're all doing these days, and the change in the landscape for media, for personal branding, for marketing, for all these things, and really for putting ideas out there. It's the technology and communications have really leveled the playing field as well as far as accessibility to all this information and the ability to share this. So I'm experimenting with this over the next 30 days also as we're traveling to increase the number of posts. So Gary Vaynerchuk, real big shout out. Trying to learn on the fly and experiment and be okay with sort of failing and messing it up, because that's what it's all about. And hopefully, again, this sound is coming out okay. I'm speaking a little bit louder. I'm going to try and get rid of that in post, but probably won't be able to do that. You can find me on Instagram at Erwin Valencia, ErwinValencia, ErwinValencia.io online, as well as FightCrushKill.com, where Amanda and I, she's in El Salvador right now, so we're going to do a Facebook Live and sort of discuss the things that we're both using. But check it out. We're going to put some blog posts up with links to all the products that we talked about here over the last few days, and continue to do so. But thanks for checking it out, and see you later.